Greetings, YouTubers. Rick Poulin here with a very surprising and interesting invitation from a couple of my work colleagues. Husband and wife team, Paula and Jason, gave me a call and invited me to spend the day riding with them. They reside in the southeastern part of the United States, Virginia, and wanted to make a motorcycle adventure travel trip up to the northeast. So they came up to Lincoln, New Hampshire, invited me to spend the day riding with them, and boy, that was just something that I couldn't pass up. I had never met these two physically, talked to them on the phone, but had a chance to meet them in the flesh, so to speak. So I could not give up an opportunity to spend the day, and what a great day it was. The weather was just perfect, in the 50s, very sunny. It's late September 2022, and the fall season is here. The colors are just turning along the way. You'll see it's not peak season yet at the end of September, but it will be coming shortly. So we just could not I could not pass up the opportunity to spend the day with them. And I wanted to thank them for giving me an invite, because as you know, motorcycle riding and adventure travel is just one of my many hobbies that I do enjoy. So we set out from Lincoln, New Hampshire, headed for Freeport, Maine. They had done all the local scenic train cogway, the visiting the flume and the basin and Franconia Notch. So I figured, well, Freeport, Maine would be interesting, and we talked about that a little bit, maybe arriving at LL Bean. So after a quick breakfast right in that local area there, we headed out to the Kancamagus Highway. Made a couple of stops at some of the scenic overlooks. The Pemigewasset Scenic Overlook and the Rocky Gorge Overlook was very nice. If you ever get a chance to, whether you live here in New England or visiting, to ride the Kancamagus Highway. And Franconia Notch is just a beautiful area to ride, very scenic. And the mountains out here are just very majestic. So here we are, just traveling along from Lincoln through the Kancamagus Highway on to Conway, New Hampshire. We proceeded east about 2.5 hours, I think, 2 hours 15 minutes, something like that, to LL Bean in Freeport. But here, after we left the Kank, we traveled on, like I said, through Conway, took Route 113 to 302 up through Fryeburg, Maine, and then on through Bridgton, Maine, up through Route 11 north of Sebago Lake, just a little north of Sebago Lake. We didn't stop there, but Route 11 runs north of that, and then on to Route 121 into Freeport, Maine, which is about, like I said, 2.5 hours a ride. They've seen so much of the highway, of course, traveling from Virginia north, that we tried to stay off the highway. As you've heard in some of my other videos, whenever I have a chance to ride the back roads through the more interesting scenic towns and cities, I'd rather do that. That's one of my favorite things to do as well, see new and interesting places. And on the highway, you're just whizzing by everything. So we decided we would take those routes to Freeport and just enjoy the day as we did. So please just sit back, relax, and enjoy this little trip to Freeport, Maine from Lincoln, New Hampshire, up in the White Mountains. Here we are on a couple of stops. The first one here is as I mentioned, the Kancamagus Scenic Overlook. Very, if you haven't been here, please do if you're visiting New England or you're from this area. This scenic overlook is just that, very scenic. The mountains up here are just so majestic and beautiful. I've been up on the Kancamagus Highway, 50 or 60 times, give or take, on a motorcycle, and it just never gets boring. It never gets, I always see something different. I have not stopped at all the lookouts, the scenic lookout points, but here we are just pulling off and getting some pictures taken and looking at the mountains and a little bit of the fall colors, just enjoying the day. It's really nice day weather-wise, 50s, sunny, nice and cool. Doesn't get any better than that. Now, Paula here has got something very interesting. This to me looked like a ferret. Come to find out, it's an ermine, a wild animal native to this area. They are, in some areas, illegal to have as pets. They're not domesticated, they're wild. They have very sharp teeth and can be very ferocious. But I thought this was somebody's pet ferret. It was just so clean and good looking and looked very healthy. But as I mentioned, it's a wild creature native to this area. First time I've ever seen one. And this little guy was entertaining everyone. Again, I think most of the people here, if they hadn't seen one, would think that it was somebody's pet. But these are also called stoats. I thought it was a short-tailed ferret, and basically they are the species of northern weasels, wild animals to this local area, which I did not know of until this day. Very interesting. And again, here are the mountains, the White Mountains in New Hampshire. Just beautiful. I can't tell you enough how beautiful this area is. Just love it every single time I get the motorcycle up there. Paula went back to the bike to get a blanket or something, a tarp. She was looking for this ermine. It had by now scampered off, probably after realizing that nobody was giving it something to eat. I don't know. But it was very friendly. It seemed very friendly for being a wild animal. And they are known to be ferocious, as I mentioned. But the little ermine there, he walked into the woods and was never found again. I don't know what she was going to do with it, but Paula is a volunteer back home. She volunteers some of her time at the local animal shelter. She's an animal lover, so this wasn't surprising to see if she could help it in any way. And there's Jason trying to see if he can find it, but this thing had taken off, I guess. Never came out of the woods here. So as we get ready to depart this little area here, we weren't quite sure of what that little wild animal was, and of course later found out after doing a couple of Google searches that this was a native ermine, natural to the New England northern area. Well, we stopped to get some fuel, and here we were kind of checking out our GPSs because the traffic had picked up quite a little on these back roads here, and we ran into a lot of construction in Maine here. We're outside of Freeport here, and the GPS did a couple of times throw us off. It was sending us into different locations, not following the GPS, of course. And the latest construction, road closures and detours weren't listed on my GPS, and I had updated the GPS the night before to get ready for this trip. But nevertheless, we did take a couple of turns, a couple of U-turns. We did get into Freeport, no problem, but that was due to the routes that we had mapped out on our Garmins. Did not notify us about the construction and the detours. So some of the roads we were to travel were closed due to the construction. And here we're finally arriving at LL Bean in Freeport, where we had a nice lunch and a little rest. And they were headed to Portland, Maine after this place, so I decided I was going to jump on the freeway, head back home to where I live in Maine, and bid them a good farewell. So we went into the shops, looked around a little bit. Jason and I looked at a couple of rifles in the archery area, just enjoying LL Bean. Took a couple of shots by the old LL Bean boots outside the main building area there. But here we are pulling into the one of the overflow parking lots. It was very busy. Well, anytime I've gone to LL Bean, it's pretty busy, as you know if you've been here. So as we wrap up, I'd like to thank you for watching. Thank you.